Writers Guild spoken word series. Tonight we're just doing open mic because, as most of you know, the long sordid tale, we weren't able to do a spoken word stage at 4th Street Festival this year. So this is sort of our makeup opportunity for folks to come share their work tonight. This is weird. It's weird being back here. This is the first Thursday event that I've been to since May. I missed June, I missed July, and I missed August, which is weird. Weird for me to miss that much and miss all that in a row. So I'm happy to be back with everyone. I just had a couple of things I wanted to mention before we get rolling. First, our monthly meeting is Saturday, September 16th at 3 o'clock at the Monroe County Public Library, room 2A. It's a business meeting, so if you're into 501c3 not-for-profit arts administration management, please come. Please come see how the sausage is made. We would love to show you. So that's it. That's our monthly meeting. And then the next event coming up will be the last Sunday poetry reading and open mic, which will be Sunday, September 24th at 3 at Morgenstern over on the east side. And that's at 3 p.m. And that will feature Shannon K. Winston and Bernardo Wade. And Hiromi curates that series. Again, that's last Sunday poetry reading and open mic, Saturday, the 24th of this month at 3 o'clock. And join us next month back here for this series when we will feature James Dorr, who's over there, who's, since it's October, we're trying to do spooky stuff. Tentatively, we have poet Tom Hastings and magician Tom Hastings, who will be joining us. Tentatively, we still have to confirm him. And I'm super excited, Drecka, Michael Anderson, local fantastic musician. Hard to classify Drecka's work, but if you've been in Bloomington for a while, you've heard his stuff. He's amazing and spooky and passionate and very gothy, and it's gonna be hot. I'm really looking forward to it. So that's next month, and that is that'll be Wednesday, October 4th, right here at 6. So be sure and come back for that. So the way this will work is, since we're a relatively small group, I think we'll try and do maybe a couple of rounds. If people have material, we'd like to do a couple of rounds. Maybe do about 5 minutes or so when you're up here, and I will leave the sign-up sheet up here. I'll announce the first person, and if that person, when you're done, go ahead and announce the next person. That's how we'll work it. So, and when we're done, I'll finish up. When we get to here, I'll go ahead and put my, just to make things clear. Add myself to the bottom here.
Would you throw my name right above yours? I didn't know there was a sign up.
Oh yeah. What's your name?
I go by Frick. If you just want to write that down, Frick. Frick.
Cool. Thank you.
Put it down for a second, help
Sure. I think maybe we'll take a break after the first round. We'll get to the end. I'll come up. I'm number 8. I'll come up and do my thing, and then I'll take a poll and see how people feel. If we want to just charge ahead and do another round, or we can take a short break, that sort of thing. So first up, Brian Price.
Thanks very much. I'm all confused about 5 and 10 minutes and all that stuff, but we'll see. First thing I'd like to read is wrote this morning. I was thinking about Tony, and he apparently had cranked out 12 kitty poems in 12 hours or something like that. And so the question is, when can you have too many cat poems? And apparently, you can never have enough cat poems. So this is called surveillance. I think, no, I'm convinced that my cat is an operative. Maybe for MI6, maybe for the CIA, maybe for the Justice League. She lies around all day, and she always seems to be in the exact same room where there's a conversation. Her ears are like parabolic antennae. I don't know what she has in her fat little belly. Microphones, recorders, poison darts, maybe maps to an agreed upon drop point. This afternoon, my wife and daughter were talking. I couldn't hear a word they were saying. I said, "Cat, report in. What you got?" The cat got up, stretched, and contemptuously walked out. She is the spy who answers to no one. Then I'll just read a couple of things from my book, The Wrong Side of the River. And what's kind of neat about the pieces in The Wrong Side of the River is they can kind of be out of order in a little way. But this is called The Drunken Owl. I followed the owl because I thought maybe the owl could fly across the river. I thought maybe the owl could fly into the mist and not turn around. I followed the owl because I thought maybe the owl's wings could cut through the low clouds and the owl could land in the volcanic waste or the leafless grub or whatever's left over on the other side. That's what I wanted the owl to do, not turn around, not come back until it had proof that it had made it across. Bring something back, owl. Bring me something home. I followed the owl first by its sound. It kept hooting at me. Well, maybe it wasn't hooting at me, but it was hooting. And it was hooting at somebody. I mean, you don't just hoot for nothing, do you? Maybe they hoot for communication, or for joy, or for sorrow. Maybe they hoot for broken dreams or lost nests. I heard the owl off into the edge of the woods, at the edge of the river, and I started walking, trying to get closer to the hoots. I followed Main Street down to where it goes underwater. The double yellow lines go underwater and waver for a while, for a few paces, another 10 yards until the mud's too thick to see. Ooh, that's nice. That's when I saw the owl. It floated over the street and lifted under a telephone line. It circled and wobbled in the air. I mimicked it with my walk. I mimicked it with my arms. The owl floated left. I put my arms out and I floated left. The owl dropped like the air broke out from under it, and I dropped to my knees. The owl flew over the lowest swamp among the drowning oaks and the rotting corn. It dropped to a puddle, looked up, looked around, listened, and then drank. I did the same. I sloshed loudly into the swamp, as loudly as I could. I looked where the owl looked. I listened to where the owl heard. Then I drank the mud. It's been hours and days since I've seen the owl. Maybe months, maybe years. I drink what the owl drinks. I see what the owl sees. I know what the owl knows. And like the owl, I sometimes make it to the other side until I sober up. Is that enough, or can I had set myself up for one more, but
Sure.
This is one of my favorite pieces out of the Wrong Side of the River. It's called The River Nymph. I bet you were a river nymph when you were a girl, I said. I bet you walked barefoot and naked in the sandy bottom creeks. I bet you collected trinkets from hunters' cabins. I bet you made love to a local boy and you stole his soul. What if I did? What would you do about it? Ren Shelmerdine, the mayor, my mayor, I'd voted for her a number of times, said as she began to comb and braid her long gray hair. I'd wish I was that boy, I said. I tested a little dust on the mantle, blew it off my fingertips. There were a number of photographs up there and a snow globe from Luray Caverns, wherever that is. I took down one of the photos, tinted and dull with blackish gray ornate frame. A family portrait, a bearded man in a store-bought suit and polished shoes, a wife seated with a child in her lap, and 4 piercing pretty daughters in collared dresses and white lace sleeves standing behind them. One daughter had a hand on the father's shoulder. She looked a little like Wren. I looked at the back of the frame. It said 1873. What would you do without a soul? Would you give it away that easily? Wouldn't you want your soul for something? The mayor asked. Maybe you'd need it. Maybe it would be worthwhile in a trade. Excuse me. If I had my soul, I'd probably just give it to the river, I said. Or the river would just take it. It takes everything else. She had said, come on, that afternoon. She said it. She was tired of waiting, tired of watching the dwindling numbers of broken, hopeful fools standing on the shore waiting, tired of looking across at the stupid, thick river and staring into the mud and into the mist. And she said, follow her, and I followed her. I'd follow her anywhere. I decided that long ago. She wanted to show me something. So we put on our heavy boots. We sloshed up the road north of the town with no name. Walked by a closed gas station and a sign that pointed to the complaining cave. She led me halfway up a bluff at a steep, very steep angle on a path that was carefully not a path. You weren't supposed to notice the path. You weren't supposed to notice the cabin that was very carefully almost not a cabin. You could hardly see it in the tangled undergrowth. It was dusk by the time we arrived. The last of the orange-purple clouds sagged in the sky. The mayor found the key under a few leaves on the window ledge. I looked for a switch, but there was no switch. I looked for a lamp, but she had no lamps. This is where I grew up, she said. My father was a writing lawyer. He rode from town to town. He got paid in chickens and promises. My mother loved her books. She had a very pretty reading voice. I bet you were gorgeous back then. And I'm not now? I'm not gorgeous? Of course she was gorgeous. She said, I don't do this often. I don't do this at all. And she led me to a single bed in the back. She said, lay down here beside me. Lay down straight. Lay down under this soft and brittle quilt. And you can touch if you want. You can fumble around. I might touch back. I might not. It's been a long time, a lifetime. I ran my hands over her hip. There was a light scar. You always want to ask about scars. How did you get that? Does it hurt? She stopped my hand. She patted my cheek. I'm kind of like the river, I guess, she said. I'm the ghost of gorgeous. The ghost of gorgeous. In the morning, I awoke wrapped up in a couple of dusty, brittle quilts on the oval rag rug on the floor at the foot of the bed. I sat up with my bare feet in the sunbeam coming through the back door. The mayor was looking in the mirror above the mantel, combing out and braiding her long gray hair. Where's your phone? She asked. I don't know. I can't find it. That's a pity. I wanted to look something up, something about floods and tectonic plates and whether the earth can really crack in half. I always did appreciate you allowing me to borrow your phone. I know it was wearing the batteries down. I said, that's okay, but I always did worry about the batteries. She stared at another photo. One of 2 sisters, maybe the middle 2, maybe the 2 youngest. She ran her fingers over it and she tapped the glass. Daphne was a dryad, she said, part human, part sycamore. She was a foolish, bright girl. She seduced a young farmer. He left his wife, he left his children, he left the plow rusting in the edge of the field. The wife's family, they were deniers. They denied everything, denied it ever happened. They forgave the husband and chopped my sister down. The mayor smiled a wan smile. But she grew back, the strong ones usually do. I visit her sometimes, where she stands dangling her roots just above the high water mark along Impatient Creek. Her bark is so pretty, and she shines in the spring. She turned to me. It didn't work, she said. What didn't work, I asked. I came up here to die in a young man's, a pretty boy's arms. But here we are, still alive. That made me angry. What's wrong with being alive? Nothing, it has its uses. Did you expect the river to rise once again, higher and higher, all the way up this bluff and sweep us away, I asked. I don't expect the river to do anything anymore. I could tell, like some kind of high queen, she was going to dismiss me, to tell me to move along, go find greener pastures, or a girl who could cook, or a woman who could read a map. Maybe that would be enough. She'd tell me to become an explorer and head upstream and search for the sources, all those sources of rivers and lakes and swamps and dreams. She would argue that for whatever she was waiting, it was not mine to wait for. And I disagreed. It is hard to fall in love with a river nymph. At some point, she will lead you to deep waters. Thank you. Savannah Ridley is our next contestant.
I never know where to stand. Probably, probably better. Thank you. Would you all rather hear old new poems or new poems? Since we're taking 2 passes. Okay, start with new. Okay, that's the scarier option. Get it over with quicker. Okay, I'll just read 2 new short poems for you. The first is called Ode to the Singing Stone. Ode to the Singing Stone, which has long since stopped. A placard in the museum informs us. Any undulations of the glottis you might perceive are merely sympathetic trembles in your own tract, sibilating in time with the malachite. Someone spits a vocalese across the atmospherically sealed edge, green gild oars open to the damp shift, wheezing a glory sound. Witness to the bronchial split, your dim blue dark thrum directs us into the vitreous breach. We look full in your face and all seems cavernlit. Strange metals clang on our tongues, spilling loose under the many-eyed fluorescence, braying in their filament. Unbridled, porous initiates, we lick the salt and sing. Okay, this next one is my first attempt at a prose poem. So this is called Unholding the Terrible Thing's Hand, and it's written after Clarice Lispector. G.H. says we're in a permanent state of grace. And so when the buttered rubble falls out from between my legs, it must be God's teeth in the toilet bowl. Inspecting the clumps, I open what must be his mouth wide and finger the gummy holes till the gaps speak firmament. Till 3 I lie and lose until there is a firm division. Between utterance and experience, there is a gap. There, I learn that prayer, like poetry, is precise. Gurgle, from the Latin gurgulio, gullet. My mistakes in order, gurgling, I said, meaning babbling. Brook, to bathe, I asked, not knowing I should specify water. Made wise, I loathe what is mine with tact. I flush every hour until the room goes stale. Language cannot tell the living, it calls up. And so to pray, I point. Porcelain, bowl, blood, I point till my finger becomes directionless. Adoring, praying firmament, open up to us, pour out, undivided, yes, it does, from God's gullet, it pours eternally back into itself. Deliverance. Something and the pipe scuttles, and grace gargles the shining thing down. Next we have Tony. I probably meant to understand that was wrong, sorry. Whoever's next, I might have read your name wrong.
Oh, did you say, was it Tonya?
I know you said Tony, so
Oh, no, it's Tonya. It's you.
it's me.
Yes.
Can you hear me okay? Okay. Some of you know I'm from England and have a great attachment to the ocean. And this poem is about the ocean or the oceans. Seascapes. 1. The wind off the grey sea passes through the sharp-edged dune grass, rattling it, tossing sand and salt spray on my skin, and I lick my lips for its sharp grittiness. The incoming tide fills the rock pools, swirls the dark seaweed. On the California coast, the land looks away towards the horizon, as if yearning for another shore. I feel unbalanced at this continent's final edge. 2. Once I stood high on the rocky island of Patmos. Under my feet, the cave of the prophet, who spoke these words. In the sea of glass mingled with fire, every island fled away. And I, surrounded by islands, scattered on the smooth, bright sea, stretching away on every side, imagine lifting my arms, crying out to the islands, I am ready to flee with you across the fiery sea of glass. 3. In North Cornwall, the coast is jagged. Headlands jut out into the incoming cloudy waves that collide against these bleak shores again. The cliffs, the fallen boulders, worn away as the relentless sea erodes them. I crouch on the cliff top, looking down at this merciless destruction, and the sweet smell of time crushed under my feet cannot comfort me. One day, the sea will drown us all. And James Dorr follows.
Oh, this is a good height, a little lower maybe? Oh, okay. If people can hear okay, and I can read. This, for regulars here, may recall that I've been reading a story called The Casket Suite, which is a grouping of 5 stories based on a New Orleanian urban legend of the Casket Girls, or the Filles Cassettes, in the French. These were actual women who were sent to New Orleans from France in 1728 to marry the more prominent men in New Orleans at the time, to induce them to settle down and allow the colony to stay as a colony and just not a glorified trading post. The urban legend is based on the translation of cassettes as caskets, and they were known as the Casket Girls. And then translating caskets to mean coffins, as undertakers call them now, the expensive ones. And allegedly, in their caskets, they had all brought vampires. And the caskets with their vampires, even to this day, are locked in the 3rd floor of the old Ursuline convent on Chartres Street, where we presumably hope that they will continue. My version of it is that they did not bring caskets; they brought actual cassettes, sea chests with all this stuff in it. But they also brought among their number a woman who was a vampire, who had basically killed one of the other women for her passport because she was fleeing France. And so they continue on. We've had 3 of the stories already, and it's been a couple of months, as Tony has pointed out. We've been missing I missed one meeting on my own, and there was another meeting which was truncated and didn't have an open mic. And there was another one which didn't happen, so that was some background. So, given the small group, there are two chapters, if it were left, 4 and 5, and I'll read section 4 now, which is very, very short, and then on the second helping, we'll do the final one. So this is called Shades of Difference. Red, the color of blood, of course. It was a vampire's favorite color, but just as a French woman doesn't drink just wine, so too the New Orleanian vampiresses, Les Filles à les Cassettes, expressed their fondness for shades of red. Crimson, for instance. Arguments ensued over whether or why it was better than scarlet. Yvonne had a special fondness for pink, her poetic mind searching for tiny variants, highlights, if one will, in its soothing paleness. Lowe preferred mauve or even maroon, but in a fashion sense, noting their contrast to her pale skin, her luxurious blonde hair. Just red, she would maintain, as vulgar, too flashy. Others agreed, although all pointed out it was still delicious. And we'll have part 5, which is rather longer than this part, on the next round. But for now, Hiromi.
Awesome, thanks. All right, so since it is almost 9/11, I am going to read a 9/11 poem out of my chapbook, Epicanthus. It's called God Wind. The planes deliberately collided into the World Trade Center. North and South towers, like steel-winged Icarus, twinned, burning, kamikaze crash and decimation. The shredded paper gods shedding green pennies and white hair. The Manhattan skyline was a smoggy plexiglass altar where dreams were sacrificed to the rising sun, that smirking bastard. Pedestrians coughed, gagged on the foretaste of phoenix ash. Black stench of needless apocalypse clogged nostrils. Resurrection, an unwritten blueprint drifting on wayward God wind. All right, I'll follow that with 3 unpublished poems that are not only unpublished, but I've never read them before. And these are pretty much based on my observations from my house in terms of what happens during the summer and what happens also maybe closer toward the end of summer. This one is called Rabbit Season. Rabbits scamper across gravel and grass, dodging beneath expensive parked vehicles, hoping not to get hit and flattened out on asphalt roads like hairy pancakes sizzling in 90 degrees Fahrenheit heat. Rabbit after rabbit appearing, then disappearing to the invisible chorus of raucous birds. They all look the same, the birds squawk, like blacks or orientals or whites, equally furtive, harried, clueless, waiting for the melting pot stew to be flung into, carcass boiling gently into a lovely bubbling mess of seasons. The rabbit stew of the imagination multiplies with odd, indivisible numbers of unnameable ingredients. Unlike cumin, sassafras, lemongrass, coriander, anise, marjoram, saffron, pepper. What else can we use to season a rabbit in rabbit season? Rabbits in the Paradise, R.I.P., of the melting pot stew of the odd imagination. This one's called The Scavenger. Shadowy figure towering over my dumpster edge. Vulture head drooping forward as he peers. Powerful flashlight pulsates blue. Slick expert, he awakens maggots and flies, the stench being his putrid friend. He slings his heavy trash bag over his strong shoulder and ambles away, casting giant shadows beneath the invisible half moon. And finally, actually, this one is published, or was published in, I think it was Flying Island Journal, and it was nominated for a Best of the Net award. It's called After the Fire. Before the fire next door at Rara Avi's apartments on 417 South Fess, the dumpster had overflowed richly, a stinky marketplace, inviting tenants to fling overstuffed black trash bags from the windows above. The American flag serving as a shade at a glowing window bothered me some, but it became all right after the fire. Flames that ravaged the second floor corner apartments facing away from the dumpster, blackened into eye sockets in the skull of the building. Today, the Rara Avis dumpster has been normalized by bona fide trash. Flattened out, stained, frozen food cartons, storm-broken tree branches, yawning styrofoam clamshell carry-out food boxes, soggy cylindrical toilet paper cores, battered, dented Venetian window blinds, plastic buckets of scum-saturated sponges, and half-used Clorox bottles. Scavengers discouraged like overfed vultures. Thanks very much. Up next is, I think it's Wesley. Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. All right.
So I'm going to be honest with y'all. I've never done one of these. I just got into writing poetry this year. So thank you. I've been a backseat member of the Writers Guild for about 3 months trying to get the courage for this. So this first poem is, I actually wrote it after I just saw the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I grew up in a very conservative area of Florida, which most of Florida is a conservative area. And I escaped a lot and found my queerness through comic book heroes and secret identities. And this is kind of part of that. So this is called Mutants and Me. I was grown when I realized my love for the underdog was homoerotic. I viewed mutants my whole life as something exotic, a dire obsession that left me some type of neurotic, a sliver of queerdom with a byproduct. Mutants weren't made for this world, they fought it, scratch that. The world wasn't made for them, fought to live and told it was a sin. Sounds familiar. The parallel between me and Wolverine to the naked eye is obscene. My jealousy of turtle brothers left me green. A whole school of freaks like me would be a dream, but I didn't get the privilege to hide in the sewers. My queerness was at the forefront for all of my viewers. I still held on to my mutation, the secret identity of my self-hatred foundation. The world was not made for us mutants. After all these years, still treat us like pollutants. We have risked our lives to save humanity, and that toll takes a price of our sanity. But hey, at least for now, they're standing me. Next week, they'll probably abandon me, get on television and talk about LGBT calamity, mutations and abominations splitting the nation. A rat dad would have been better than a father that was so hateful. Told me my mutation was a crazy thought of the unfaithful, that I should pray and take medication, and I mistook this for love and dedication. Only now I realize that I was an experimentation. Drained that mutation like a cheap gas station. Years of cars lining up to pump my unleaded identification, siphoning off the last of my God's creation. After an entire decade of fueling others to like me, adamantium ripped through my weak body, a rage so strong that nothing could stop me. Claws extracted, mutation enacted, self-hatred redacted. Let them know what the fact is, what their draining impacted. That scene where our hero finds their power. My mutation no longer a personality prowler. I had the choice to be hate or love. Comic book heroes would choose to rise above, but the choice is not as simple as it seems. It is hard to face the hatred of such extremes. Words so painful they take years off your life scan. But I look at humanity and try to see the good that I can. Turtles and X-Men showed me that the world is not fair, that you will be demonized, dehumanized for just breathing air. But kindness can cause a change of heart. For me, that's a very good start. I'll do one more on this round. This one kind of goes along with the thought that we are all meant to just pair up and be these, perfect little cookie cutter couples. So all you need is love. Sometimes we build walls so high up from the people we love that we forget what it's like to be loved. Love is presented to us as a ribbon wrapped around a present tied so tight, you would ruin the surprise if you opened it before it's ready, before you're ready, before they have a clue, before the ribbon unties and wraps itself around you like a silk noose fitted for your heart, cutting off circulation to your thoughts. Dumbstruck by dumb luck, it's a matter of time before this sucks, before you're fucked, before you feel stuck. But this isn't love. This is the illusion of what only those of heteronormative love can create the image of. Something they can hold above, something they can judge with tangible parameters of what is good or bad love, so you feel that you are not worth love, that you are unlovable because your love will never be picture perfect, nor song worthy, nor even book worthy. We are so conditioned to fall in love with someone, anyone, that loving yourself is never an option. And if you don't love, if you don't fall into line with the pitter-patter, cookie-cutter, copies of copies kind of love, well, then you're just selfish. You can never be selfless. You must be lonely. You must be awful. What is wrong with you? Are you okay? Love. What they don't want you to know is that your life can be so rich with love without being in love with anyone but yourself. They will call you a narcissist. They will whisper worries about you behind good intentions, touch your arm and say there's someone out there for you. With furrowed brows and looks of genuine concern, and you will repeat, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm happy, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. No, really, I'm good, I'm fine, I'm doing really well. Happiness is not sex and shared bills. It's not constant compromise and feeling obligated to do things because of sex and shared bills and the societal pressure to pair up, to not be alone, to live happily ever after. Happiness is being able to go out on a whim, to escape reality when you feel you need to have friends that want to spend time with you, all of you, and not just the parts of you that are good for sex and shared bills, because it isn't a convoluting factor. Happiness is spending time with your family without feeling that you need to constantly apologize for where you came from or feel like you need to explain things away. Not having to diminish your success, not having to shrink yourself because you're too much right now. Happiness is never having the fear that your partner will get bored with you, find someone new, only to have you slough through another breakup slew. I'm happier alone together with the love of friends and family than I ever was alone with the idea and expectation of what that ribbon holds so tight. When I say I'm fine, I mean I've never been better. When I say I'm happy, I truly mean it for the first time. Thank you. Up next is Frick. Yeah. Sorry. That's okay.
Oh, how's everybody doing today? So I got bored and decided to come up from Evansville again to hang out with you all. I really have gotten back into this in the last year or so and have really been enjoying it. So my favorite thing to write about, typically love, heartbreak, grief, anything that the shared human experience can can bring us together through those themes. So this first one I'm going to read, this is called On Texting, a sad millennial love song. My leg buzzes against the couch cushions and I reach for a phone that isn't even there. It's sitting plugged in on the table. Apparently, my mind yearns for you so badly it manifested physical phantasms to sing a song of longing for you, for any form of contact from you. A simple hey, a silly meme, anything that confirms that I was on your mind for even a minute, looking for any excuse to message you back and learn more about what makes you tick. Talk, Snapchat, FaceTime, your place or mine. White noise and static from shitty service and misread tones. My written words represent concrete evidence. Read receipts and messages read from bed and sent in the dark look even sexier in the soft glow of sunlight. Entire boxes traded back and forth like this is some kind of warehouse. This is the thread where one-liners and K's go to die, where hearts of so many technicolors get sent beside so many little emoji faces. Our best effort to express with fingers on letters what our lips would trace, word to lip, lip to mouth, because if I can't kiss you in person soon, I might accidentally kiss my phone screen. Blessed beyond measure to not have to let the ink dry before I saddle up my steed and sally forth or tally ho, which sound more like names for dating apps, come to think of it. But the invisible electronic butterflies, or whatever they may be, whisk my words away to you at a speed that lets me bear myself to you in ways that previously would have taken 4 painful years of high school to figure out how to communicate, let alone have the courage to articulate. Every time I text you, hey, how was your day? I hope it was as beautiful as you. What I'm saying is that I want to say all these things to your face, but if distance keeps us apart and this is the timeline we were born in, then texting will simply have to do. Anything if it means I'm talking to you. That's that. I really enjoy haikus a lot, so I like to break up my poems with some haikus, so I'm just going to pepper some haikus in here real quick. Crashing, dark, thunder, clapping, waves pounding, a storm, the sea or the heart. In quiet and still darkness of the night, I write the loudest poem. All right, and this poem here, and I'll save the other one I've got for round 2. This is. I normally write a lot of free verse. I like to play around with words as much as possible without being confined, unless it's a haiku, of course. Outside of that, a friend of mine challenged me to write a villanelle, and at first I was like, I'm not doing that. This is the result of me ultimately doing that. I also I sat down to do it, and when I didn't want to do it, I just called it the villanelle one. I was like, I'm contemptuously naming this. So I named it the villanelle one, but then I was pretty happy with it. So. Roaming colorful streets under Barcelona skies, a stranger in a bright red coat smiles warmly. I witnessed magnificence with my own eyes. Traveling alone, my sights on no prize, the world begins with every kiss, roaming colorful streets under Barcelona skies. I stick out sorely, perhaps a disguise. Hiding covertly in La Sagrada Familia, I witnessed magnificence with my own eyes. Tired shoppers on La Rambla let out deep sighs. The sunset burns brightly as shadows dance, roaming colorful streets under Barcelona skies. From Mount Tibidabo, spirits reach new highs. The city of splendor buzzes below. I witnessed magnificence with my own eyes. Living the nights and taking in sunrise, I absorb every ounce of the city's essence. Roaming colorful streets under Barcelona skies, I witnessed magnificence with my own eyes. That's that. And we'll do one more haiku and then save the rest. This one I actually named. I called this one Just the One. There were so many red flags, I sewed them into one like a ship's mast.
What's up? Oh, no worries. I knew it was me. All right. So I made 27 poems over the weekend for the Poetry on Demand booth at the 4th Street Festival, and I'm going to read all of them. No, I'm not. I'm not going to read all of them. But I wanted to read a few of them. I made 12 on Saturday and 15 on Sunday, and of those 27, 10 were about pets. Of those 10, I believe 7 were about cats. So, like I said, I was not kidding when I said it was a bumper crop of cat poems this year. So I'm going to read I'm going to read some of the cat poems, and then I'll read a longer sad poem, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll come back and we'll do round 2. If this is going to come up, this might be bad. I could always do it on my phone. I've got all the bars. What's happening?
You didn't memorize it?
Yeah. Oh, when did I get it? It's weird. That's okay. Just a moment. I think you're hogging all the Wi-Fi.
Keep your cat phones on your burner phone, is that the idea?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe your patrons really do own them.
Yeah, right. There we go. Do. This is not good. Stymied. Stymied at every turn. There we go. Okay, so here's, this is called, come on, there we go. This is called The Bargain. What does it take to tempt you? No pss, 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 will work, and picking you up is a dangerous act, all pokey on the bottom and hissy up top. What does it take to get you on my terms, onto my lap, into my heart, into my skin? It takes patience of a side turn and waiting for you to curl up on your terms, squirming, then settling, then sleeping like a sharp little baby. Hey, sure. This was a weird one. This was also an animal poem, one of the weirder animal poems, because this came from one of the artists. One of the artists from one of the booths came down and requested a poem um, about taboo animals, specifically like animals that what was he talking about? He was talking about like animals that have some sort of mysterious quality about them, um, that you're not supposed to like. You're not supposed to like them, or you're not supposed to admire them for some reason. And his example was a moose. Um, and oh God, there's something else in the conversation about Chick-fil-A and chickens. I mean, there's a lot of poems. These are so. This came out. This is called "The Moose is Loose." A plunk on the head to a chicken means the sky is falling, not smart enough not to drown in the rain. What's a moose but a dork with a squirrel for a friend? Hat rack of the family room, collector of swamp moss, schnoz like a boxing glove, four-legged Canuck cannot galumph out of its own way. Only one of these is breaded on a burger bun. Only one a trophy on display or grisly enemy, a surprise when fishing downstream. If you ask a chicken how it feels to be meals, they'll look askance and peck. But a moose has no care for stupid human taboos, and there is no moose fillet. I've checked. And then, oh, thank you. And then this one. This is sysadmin of destiny. This one's pretty self-explanatory. Sysadmin of destiny. In the pull-down menu of life, not nearly enough items are grayed out, and all selections expand, cascading into further nested submenus as complicated as a brain. Pull back, not down, from the busy brink and assess the priorities of all these files, some open, some closed, some the app long defunct. It's all about time management, this life aging into joy, between the trash can of forgetting and the task list that does nothing but update. You'll find quietude and peace of mind, like sleep mode, instead of a full shutdown. And then this last one, we'll end on a sad, longer poem, and then we'll take our break. This is Forever Home. I should never have called them your dogs. They were our dogs, and also their own beings. Dum-dums at the end of something get hung up on ownership, but those puppies just laughed and kept laughing with faces that are naturally shaped that way. Never stopped loving, entangled survival, dependent on us. People get fragile about steak. Some cuts are better than others. More than medium is ruined, and medium is practically burnt. Ketchup is a joke. A1 is just a smokescreen for how you fucked it up. But dogs gobble down every crumb like Chateaubriand, hoovering at my feet while I'm doing dishes because the sound means something more might fall. It took about a month to figure out I wasn't coming back. Survival minds count on loss and cannot dwell too long, back to tasting the air beside the dining table. Years go by and nothing. Then, out of nowhere, food falls like manna from heaven. Waiting, patient, hopeful. Every meal, its preparation and cleanup, no matter how sumptuous or messy, is another chance to be called good and know it, to belong to someone and know it, yours, mine, anyone's forever home. Thank you. So let's take a quick break. We'll take maybe 10 minutes or so. Have a snack, have something to drink, and then we'll come back and we'll do another round. Sound good? Fantastic. Thank you. Yeah. Check, check. Check, check. 1, 2, 1, 2. How's that? Are you hearing anything? Are you hearing me? You hearing me at all?
Did you turn it on? The mic? You turn the mic on.
Here we go. Check, check. Are you hearing me? How's that? Check, check. 1, 2. Was it super low? How's that better? Can you hear me? Does that sound good? Yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, thank you all for staying because you're all going to read again. Here we go for round 2. Yeah. Do you want to read? Do you want to just go first? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, come on through. Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me okay? Okay. Um, I probably need to give a little introduction because I've discovered not everyone has heard of the pangolin. The pangolin is a little mammal and it's the only mammal that has scales on it. Just for you to know. So this is a poem about the pangolin. Pangolin, the shadow lost. I saw her picture in a wildlife magazine and fell in love. Was it her short furry snout, the small bright eye, sweep of the overlapping scales on her curved back, stubby legs, or the long tail with its sharp scales, all shiny copper in the last rays of the sun? I wanted to know everything about her, her length, 12 to 19 inches, her weight, 4 to 7 pounds, habitat, grassland or trees, country, Africa or Asia, home, hollow tree or burrow. Her characteristics, primarily nocturnal, good swimmer, poor-sighted, relies on smell and touch to catch her food, digs it out with long curved claws, catches them on the sticky tip of her long tongue. Mothering gives birth to between 1 or 3 white-scaled offspring. After a mother of nursing comes slowly out of her burrow or tree, the babies clinging to her back, their scales now dark. I travel to see her, go quietly down to a riverbank at dusk, crouch behind reeds at the edge, wait. Shadows come slowly down to the water's margin. I hear soft splashing as they enter the water, more splashing as the young ones play. I wish I could stop my story here, but there are predatory humans in the forest and the grasslands, worse than 4-footed predators, against whom rolling into a ball and lashing out with her sharp tail gives her a chance of survival. For her meat is prized as a delicacy, her scales wrongly believed to have medicinal properties. So between 2011 and 2013, 2,038 pangolins were killed. In 2013, 2,000 pounds of meat were found in a wrecked truck. In 2016, 65 pangolins were found in a man's freezers. Over the last 10 years, more than 10 million pangolins were trafficked. As of January 2020, all 8 species were listed in the threatened tier, the red list. I feel, I see shadows gathering around the pangolin, that she may not long be with us. I don't want to imagine a world without pangolins. And Brian Price is the next reader. I don't want to run you down.
See, I guess I- This is the Elvis mic. I do not do Elvis impersonations. I'll just read another quick little chapter out of Wrong Side of the River. I've been calling myself lately a environmental surrealist, because I think that's what, because Antonia is in that category also. This one's called Ain't This Enough? Ain't this enough? She tried to make him look at her. He wouldn't look. Ain't I enough? She tried to step in front of him. He stepped aside one more step. She turned to the stove and stirred whatever was in the pot. They were supposed to be eaten. This was the kitchen. He'd come in and hadn't taken his boots off. There's a boat tomorrow, he said. You going? She asked, and she kept her back to him. I'm thinking about it. Thinking, she said. Seems like a good opportunity. He looked down at his boots and the muddy prints he'd made on the kitchen floor. You going to take your boots off? She asked, not looking at him, pretending that the pot needed that much stirring. Might have to go back out, he said, but he was hungry. He went over to the sink and rinsed his hands. He looked and didn't see the dish towel, so he wiped his hands on his shirt and pants. Suit yourself, is what she said. Ain't this enough, is what she wanted to say. She wanted to keep saying it. She wanted to beat it like a drum. Ain't I enough? Ain't I enough? She wanted to take one of those big chalkboards that they used to write the menu on at the little Cheddar Brew Pub in La Crosse, Wisconsin, where she used to work before the cracks, before the river broke, before the river was whatever the river is now. She wanted to take the chalkboard and she wanted to make a list. It wouldn't be the longest list in the world, but it could be. And it would start with, number 1, every morning I get up, you get up. Number 2, we do what needs to be done. Number 3, you come back for lunch. Number 4, I feed you. I always feed you. I like feeding people. I don't mind. Number 5, I know I'm not much to look at, but neither are you. Number 6, I brought everything I could to this. My truck that don't run, 2 chickens, my mother's sewing machine, $500 in my heart. Yes, my heart. I didn't know what else to do with it. And here, the special. There's always a special listed up on those boards, right? You want to hear the special written up there in happy chalky colors. You want to know the special, don't you? He'd run his mechanic fingers through his thinning hair and he said, yeah, I want to know the special. Katie. Good. He pushed his plate away and let the 3-year-old Katie slide off his knee. Thanks. He always thanked her for the meal. You know, I've got to know, he said. I've got to get to that boat. She knew, and that's what she hated. She knew that she'd do the same thing. If she thought she had a husband and 2 kids on the other side, like he thought he had a wife and 2 kids on the other side, she'd do anything to get to the other side. She'd take a plane or a train or a balloon or a steamship or a battleship or a goddamn raft to get to that other side. She'd pull a gun. She'd use it. How about we go with, she said. I don't know if that'd be a good idea. Yeah, I guess you don't want to have too many families on one side of the river, do you? That's not fair. Not fair. What's fair? Well, maybe I need to get over there and see what's what, see the lay of the land. He said this like it made any sense at all. I need to know, he tacked on. You know, nobody ever comes back. Not one single soul, she said. That's what they always say, not one single soul. Yeah, I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because it's a crazy, dumbass thing to try. Did you ever think of that? Maybe it's because it's dangerous. I gotta try, mumble. Maybe there's really a giant whirlpool out there and burning currents out in the river. I doubt it, he mumbled. Maybe it's because it's not meant to be. Maybe you have to take what you got. You're not going to make this easy, are you? He got up and started to put on his coat. No. Why? Why do you have to make a big deal out of everything? If you don't know, you're an idiot. She threw the wet dish towel into the sink. Maybe you won't find anything over there. Maybe you won't like it. Maybe a guy gets over there, he didn't want to come back, he said. Oh, that hurt. That really hurt. Do what you got to do, she said. I got to get Katie to bed. It's your night to read. He slipped his coat back off. Now, the next day, all three of them marched down to the river in a line. They looked up and down the river. They looked across a dead isle. The boat was gone. It wasn't anywhere. They marched back up the hill. Katie stomped in some puddles. He grabbed the girl and swung her up on his shoulders. Katie wiggled her toes and giggled. The woman looked back over her shoulder at the gray, fast current and smiled a tight, tiny smile and wished that every boat everywhere would just sink. Thank you. Let's see, so we're to Savannah.
Thank you. Thank you. I changed my reading plan because I have one that has September in it, so we'll do it now. I'll start with like sort of an old weird one that I never read. I just call them like the Moon Self poems, and it's just one really long, unending poem with like fragments. So I'm just gonna start somewhere in the middle and read some of the fragments, and then I'll do a short second one after. Moon self, walk a moan across our spines. Carrying call, teaches the song to sing of it. You weep to think of it, moon self. You just weep. To think of it, you just weep. Moon self, put a cup to my heart and throw it over your shoulder. Moon self put a cup to my heart and threw it over their shoulder. You think, another cup. You think, another cup. Moon self says it's endless. Moon self says sip. Endless moon self places endless cup to endless heart, says sip. Moon self make a spoon dwelling. Of me make pulp. Persimmon. Moon self taste the melt and well. Moon self, we are already in the place where Septembers exist, and they are still not enough. Welting, preserves, make of me some frozen always nowhere. Whatever you say, I cannot bear the fruit. I cannot bear the tree. Moon self, I am eating my heart as fast as I can. Moon self fingers keep spooning. Moon self split, burst lips, and still, soft tips eddy. Like a squelching mist, it does not end. It does not end. Grief-stricken, steady, prickling solvent. Uncountable number of hours, uncountable number of jars. To be opened, moon self, by a steady trickle. Vines unlidding the earth's loose skin, folding what is molten with thin fingers, gentling time. Keeper, in your light I am undone. I'll just do a teeny tiny one that I wrote this summer called Tomato Season. Tomatoes' bells peel out, casting a golden drench across the squish of seeds and soft guts spilled atop the cutting board. Browning scapes curl towards the edge. A tangled pear tumbles off in the 9 p.m. light. You're not chasing things anymore, you insist to the tomatoes, mute in their shining rows. Green and grief's leftovers, they glisten and burst. Thank you. Next we have James.
So, I'll let the experts do it. So now, so this will end the casket suite with what's in a name. What's in a name? Ame wondered. Well, her name, Ame, meant beloved in English, and she'd like to think that everyone loved her. But did they really? Well, she was a vampire, the first of the field cassettes, the casket girls, the one who had been a vampire before, having had to flee from those who would persecute her before she discovered the group of young women just leaving France to go to New Orleans. This was at the orders of no less a one than King Louis XV to found families there with the colony's most influential men, and who thus became vampires themselves because of Ame, to endure forever in youth and beauty while they had been waiting to choose their husbands, as well as to found their own sisterhood with Ame at its head, which continues today. Surely that act was deserving of love. But it doesn't explain why she had to leave France in the first place, why some had pursued her, hoping to do her harm, who, one might then conclude, did not love Ame. She sighed at that. True, she did have her faults, a lack of patience at times being one of them. It was a thing she had to face, to strive if she could keep under control. Especially, she did not suffer fools well. But was that not in itself a result of what should be considered a virtue? That is, her ambition, besides being loved, was to learn to better understand things, to be the opposite of a fool. Her first husband, for instance, was chosen not just because he had wealth. This was a criterion for all of les filles, that their husbands be wealthy, because in the times when they are between husbands, they had to have means to continue their lifestyles. But back to the point that her first husband had also been a doctor by profession, as well as in his spare time a scientist, such as science was in the earlier part of the 18th century. Ame adored science, to learn how the world worked, to learn about stars and things that weren't fool things, like how the earth went around the sun and not the other way around, no matter what it looked like from on the ground, or what happens when chemicals are mixed together. She liked as well to learn the customs of different people in places other than France or New Orleans, and even religion, although it was those who professed religion who often were the most prejudiced against vampires. She could not understand that. That yes, these were the ones in France who had pursued her, who even destroyed several of her companions with hammers and stakes driven through their hearts. And yet, if they truly believed in God, the creator of vampires as well as people, should they not then extol vampires instead? Sure, perhaps on occasion a human or someone a human had known might have had a bad experience with a vampire sometime in the past. There was, after all, the blood thing. But that was no excuse. It was not the fault of vampires that God in his wisdom had put blood in people, blood that vampires required to live. Did cows and chickens, for instance, blame people because of God's making them out of meat? But yes, there it was. It was a case that some people were bigots, and Ame, most of all, should realize that one cannot reason with bigots. Some still persisted in saying the earth was flat, and although Ame could suggest experiments they might use to see it was round instead, she knew that still would not change their minds. And that was something Ame had to cope with, to make rules, for instance, for one's fellow filles, to keep their vampirism a secret, lest they be persecuted as well. to not tell one's husband, but also not to use him as a blood source, rather to fake one's own parallel aging as he lived his life out, and then as a widow to go back to France, only to return some months later in the guise of one's own daughter, having been sent to France as an infant for one's education, to try not to kill people, except when needed. But then were they given credit for that, for showing restraint, even when it might be an inconvenience? Of course, in that case, restraint was a virtue and that it helped keep their existence a secret. If one should ask, for whatever reason, if vampires exist, to readily reply, of course not. Vampires are a superstition. Only a fool would believe in vampires. And May, even if the beloved had no taste for fools. Next up, Hiromi.
All right. All right, to confess. Is this on? Somehow it doesn't sound like it. All right, here we are. Cool. All right. All right, so to confess, I was not at all prepared for round 2. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was expecting like a whole lot of people to pack this room like that other time for the poetry issue of Writer, and that we'd only have like a couple of minutes each to read. But instead of that happening, well, this is what we've got. And I'm stuck with having to do round 2 unprepared. So the only thing I have with me to share with you all would be poems from Iphicanthus. And I don't want to keep reading the same stuff because I'm sure Tony's tired of hearing the same stuff over and over, but I will read the title poem of Iphicanthus, which is very short. Iphicanthus. Curvilinear fold, enveloping the Asiatic eye, liminal barrier, caucasoid, mongoloid. The sly difference winks the epithelial rim of the petit objet seduces the Lacanian voyeur into complicity with the obese camel, lumbering through the glinting eye of the epicanthic needle. What else to read? At a recent poetry reading where I was featured, and that was in Zionsville over the summer, somebody purchased Iphicanthus and was looking at it. And at the end of looking at it, he said something to me like, "Oh, it's too bad you didn't read COVID America." So since he said that, maybe I'll read it now. It's kind of on the long side, so I'll just read that. And we'll go on to the next person on the list. COVID America. It began with the Chinese virus, injected invective into mainstream media flows, no filters, till the United States of America became a filthy petri dish, breeding, incubating, resurrected hashtags and multiple truncations, shutdowns, lockdowns, one-handed masturbation sessions, Walmart shopping sprees for toilet paper and hand sanitizer, as though 6 feet apart isn't long enough distance between Democrats and Republicans, the length of an average-sized coffin in America. And now, Masked faces are politically correct emojis, and school children and teachers are collateral damage, waiting to be counted and collected. Slipping through the cracks of the 2020 census, well, Karen became the princess ensconced in ice at the glassy apex of Capitol Hill. And George Floyd became the summer hashtag erupting from claustrophobic suburban closets. If the coronavirus is a left-wing government hoax, then the KKK is a masquerade of sadomasochistic blacks smirking in white hoods. Halt TikTok negotiations because no Americans got a Chinaman's chance. Swallow bleach to sanitize mansions of the mind inundated with misinformation. Pimp Polaroids for Facebook likes and Twitter followers. Keep digging in the gold mines of overflowing dumpsters with rubber gloves. Pick out soggy Cheerios with OCD childhood spoons because all lives matter in heaven and hell. A COVID, really can't see, this font is so itty bitty. A COVID test is like a Shirley Jackson lottery, but the black dot is the cue ball shot across vast green fields where stripes and solids and life and death are equal opportunities for all. America, the big-boobed nation, is not particularly interested in flattening out curves because bigger is better and biggest is best. So let's go ahead and say that COVID-19 is symptomatic of the American diseases of racism and all other isms and orgasmic schisms, corporate greed, homelessness, obesity, sugar, salt, butter, cheese, red meat, fast food, barbecue sauce, overkill, Mrs. Butterworth, Uncle Ben, and Aunt Jemima, the menage a trois falling off their respective supermarket shelves like shot-down Confederate statues, and BLM is the graffiti scroll of underground discourses like the N-word, the F-word, the word, branded upon the obscene, obese flesh of the denying American brain. The word with which the world began and could end. So cover up the big American motor mouth. Speak no evil. Spitting out epithelial epithets. Using leftover duct tape from 9/11 terror alert days. Fauci and Kevorkian morph into Siamese twins and paranoid collective consciousness in a nation ruled by old white men. When will Uncle Sam wear a dress? When he, she, they are dressed to kill. When will we cry uncle? When will mother know best? When will entropic atoms coalesce into utopia? Nobody in America wants to wear a mask that covers up full, luscious, smiling lips. CoverGirl, disenfranchised. Nobody wants to comply with government mandates in a democratic America. A gag bag of party tricks, a piñata exploding plastic Cracker Jack prizes in your face. America is an immigrant's wet dream. The green residue of pinched pennies. America is a melting pot of incompatible condiments, conundrum of pundits, lamb stew of crab rangoons and national lampoons. Willy Wonka chocolatier walk in Charlie Chan's chapstick factory. Enigmatic reduction of USPS operations generates nostalgia for the taste of glue on the sticky backsides of US postage stamps. America is a silly thing. America is a bleached blonde virago. America is a floating signifier. Hollywood's mega mouth, sound, and fury. America is a masquerade of giggling, scrawny, dimpled teenagers. America is a narcissist, reflected in gilt-edged, gargantuan, Baroque mirrors. Guilt-tripping down strip malls, stripped of all shame, like the naked emperor. American dads curse at barbecue grills that won't start up. American moms upbraid their pigtailed daughters for smashing their overstuffed piggybacks prematurely. American kids vie for the biggest unbroken cookie. American dogs sniff the biggest crotches. And it all ends with the Chinese virus eating its own gray spermatozoic rat tail ouroborically, gagging on the dust of desecrated Edens. Shriveled, mummy Chinatowns scattered across the pockmarked moon face of America, the Polaroid cheese that stands alone on one shriveled Zen leg. Thank you. That was really freaking hard to read because the font is so small, and I didn't realize it was that small until I looked at it, even with the glasses. Wow. All right, next up is, I think it's Wesley. All right.
I was also not prepared to read this much. So I've gotten to the point in writing where my stuff starts to get really happy. So bear with me. This is a part of a 4-part poem. I'll read the last 2, but it is my survival through conversion therapy as a teenager all the way up until my transition as an adult. So this is kind of halfway in between that. And this first part is called Don't Say Gay. They say I'm not gay. They say I'm not gay. They say I'm not gay. They say that I've lost my way, that my brain is lying, but the lithium that they put me on makes my soul feel like it's dying. I tell them I'm fine. Sometimes I just feel boyish. They hear this and they up my dosage, slap on a prognosis, try to cure me of my diagnosis, a queer with all fears that can no longer shed tears. They told me that my brain just had too many gears, way too many gears for a queer. Told me that I was the one that they feared, that I was on the borderline of personality, that I was lost in a fake reality, that if girls felt like boys and boys felt like girls, madness would cause a whirl in the world. Can you see it? Can you see my soul? Madness just taking a toll? Antidepressants are just personality suppressants, and I'm trying to remain present. Half gone, half alive, not sure which version of me has to die. So I continue to lie. I continue to lie and bury the version of me that has to die. Half alive, I push down the boy that has to die. Bricks of hatred slathered with a modar of tears that can no longer come from my eyes. A mausoleum for a pipe dream, like an unwired kidney, useless and floating, too dangerous to remove from me, too dangerous to keep me alive. I told them, I'm a guy. I swear, I'm just a guy. And they told me that that's something that I need to deny, that my brain is still telling me lies, that I'm on the borderline of personality, that this is not my reality, that if I just take my medication, it'll take me out of this situation and I can lose this conversation and play along with their placation. And maybe they'll start to believe that the conversion might be a better version of me. So the next part is, it didn't work. The boy would survive. It would take 10 years, but now that boy is alive and the girl moved out. She found light in their doubt, and my brain stopped lying. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like dying. I discovered the truth in the dark and reignited my beautiful spark. I threw out the words they used to describe me and thought only about who I might be. I was fine until I turned 29, and I will never, ever be just fine again. I'm divine, brighter than sunshine, arrived here just in time to be considered a crime. But they can't contain me. They already tried to break me, tried to bury me and erase me, hunt me down and chase me. Thank God I was strong enough to stay me. They mistook a shelter for a casket, read a eulogy for a boy that they just couldn't grasp yet. It was the woman they destroyed that lit her life ablaze so that he could step out and take his first gaze. I'm not the converted, I'm the reverted, and the bastards wanted me inverted. My soul deserted, but it didn't work, and they couldn't break me, and the war I fought only left me shaky. My soul scarred like a foxhole soldier, trying to reverse all the damage now that was done here. My brain needs reparenting, my soul needs a reckoning, my heart needs exoneration, and my body needs reparations. I got tired of depositing all that damn hate in. Started converting love into a form of payment. For as long as they can't break me, they will never erase me, and I will forever get to be Wesley. Thank you.
All right. You already know I'm going to sneak in a couple more haikus. Oh, I lost my spot. There it is. Okay. This one, let's see. She says, I love the way you touch me. It's magic. Then poof, she was gone. I did a lot of traveling and reading poetry when I was like 19, 20, 21. I traveled around and did a lot of the slam stuff that was available back at the time. And then I spent the next 15 years doing theater. I don't know if you could tell. It was a good time, but I'm very happy to be back and doing this and performing in a different way and writing. This poem, though, is it's a little influenced by theater. It's called The Audition. When I sit down to write, I first think about what I am trying to say, then the selection process starts, or rather, the audition begins. I test each word, fitting them into lines and stanzas like costumes. Every verb and adjective has a delicate part to play. Often the noun is the lead, but its supporting cast of curious characters can sometimes steal the show. At each audition, I have the words demonstrate their limberness, checking for both flexibility and elasticity. I want to see how the words move, if they are free and wild or restricted and limited. I need to know if a single word can convey both beauty and sadness, or elation and relief, or grief and sarcasm. As part of the audition, each word must speak. I give each word one line, its own name, and I allow it to deliver itself how it sees fit, though the words know full well if delivery does not work, they will be cut mercilessly. There will always be other auditions. Each word must take its time and in turn introduce itself, deliver its line, and then sing a single note. Here, I am listening for words that know how to use their cadence and volume. I need to know if the words can work with others to join together harmoniously, to see if they have a natural inclination to play off the internal rhymes of their scene partners. Not as important, but still a necessary question. I ask, can one word, say flabbergasted, act like another word? Morose is simply not a word that word can play. But this does not mean that there's no room in the show for a little shock and awe, for a passing moment to leave an audience with mouths gaping and jaws dropped. And it is here that flabbergasted, born to shine, finds its light center stage, delivers its line, and bows. If The Rock married Emma Stone, their baby would be a small pebble. Sometimes I wonder if every lover I had has forgotten me. That one's called Dark. This one's called Knock It Off. Is this guy ever going to quit with the haikus? I mean, come on, dude. Okay, this last one I'm going to do for you guys. I promised myself I was only going to save stuff like this for the bar. But in playing around with poetry, I do enjoy a sound that almost, if there was music to it, that is almost be described hip hopish. And that comes from my slam roots. Just doing stuff when I was 19, 20 and everything. And I've kind of gotten back into that, and we're going to try one. So bear with me on this one. They said that finding my voice through poetry or addressing my anxiety might not be that good for me, but they will wait and watch and see as I set up a dynasty on the mantra of self-love. Call me verbal Goliath, a wordsmith, a giant. You won't bring me down. I stand in defiance. Can't break my alliance because I am a lion who swallowed his pride. I ain't even lying. But I am a lion. Old me was stalling, but higher self's calling. Shadow work never stops. Sometimes it's appalling. Centered and focused, flow so enthralling. Keep the lime free in case penguin comes calling. Don't call it delusion. It's not an illusion. This is an example of linguistic fusion. Sorry for the intrusion, or if there's confusion, I guess there's only one real conclusion. It's just that I'm riding so high on wings like a dove. I'm repeating this mantra of self-love. See, you repeat it if it's needed until you succeeded. Your anxiety receded and your panic defeated. If your mind's feeling hungry, then it's time to feed it. And if you're not with me, then it's time to beat it. You can call it bravado, but really it's not, though. I'm just painting with words like I'm Van Gogh, rearranging elements with elegance. I'm setting precedents, resonance so hard it's like a line of self-defense. You see, I'm highly favored. Tell me I'm your favorite. Do me a favor. Say it again. This is my mantra of self-love. Let me quickly spill the tea. You can't deny this ability. To do so, it is futility. So seek with me tranquility instead of that hostility. I'm rising above it before kicking the bucket. It's all love in the budget. The numbers don't lie. I don't need to fudge it. My confidence won't budget through highs and lows and rocky roads. We stick together and trudge it. So from now on, I will be loving myself recklessly. Flaws and all, bare to see, but it's not for you. It's just for me. And this is my journey. Let's hope it won't burn me. I built up self-love, so hate it can't hurt me. It's time to discern which lessons to learn. Self-respect I will earn, so don't be concerned. I'm doing it all with no help from above. This is simply my mantra of self-love. Thank you. And last but not least, Tony.
Awesome. Frick, do you know about, you're from Evansville, right?
Yes.
Do you know about Poetry Speaks? Do you know that series? Okay.
That's where when I say I say stuff like that for the bar.
Okay,
That's
okay.
what I call my home stage.
Fantastic. Okay.
That's where
I was going to say, yeah. If you didn't, you should know.
I appreciate you very much.
Sure.
Anywhere I can go to do this, I want to do this.
So I'm going to do a couple more poems on demand from the weekend. Here's another cat poem. You want more cat poems? Yeah. This is a short one. This was interesting. This was one of the shortest prompts I got all weekend. She wanted something about lighthouses, and if I could work in cats, that'd be a bonus. Okay. So this is a short poem called Cat House on the Carpeted Shore. In the inky night, lost in the ocean of the house, when suddenly twin beacons warning me away from reef of couch, avoiding the wreckage of stubbing my toe. And you know, probably one of the most, other than anniversary poems and wedding poems and just general we're here together, we love each other poems, and cat poems and pet poems, probably the most common prompt is it's kind of vague, but it has something to do with like connection, rising above, working through something. You know, it's all kind of falls into a similar sort of category. And so, and I don't often get a lot to work with, like concrete details to work with. So, which is fine. Because it's a challenge to not be repetitive. But here's one in that vein called Infinite Strength. It's out there, the future with your impact all over it. Everything you've said and done sent ripples out across the still waters of time, disturbed by our simple acts of kindness and humanity, our rage and discomfort, all of it shaping what happens next beyond the present, beyond even your presence, a future dimmed, but still light and as strong as night. Thank you. Here's another one in a similar vein. This was the last one of the week. I remember this one. This was the last one of the weekend. This is the last one on Sunday. And Opal comes from, she had just bought a ring, an opal ring at the art festival that I caught my eye. So this is Opal Express. Not dead inside, but like heartwood, measurable growth at the center of something dormant, while the outer layers continue to wrap year after year, a solid core surrounded by living and trying to fit, not constricting like a ring of luck, but lucky to be deep in change. Every ring, another year, another stone to wish on, changing, living, growing, feeling alive again. And we'll end on this one. This is from, I wrote this one, so I did a residency this summer in Bell, Missouri at the Osage Arts Community there in Bell, Missouri. And some poets went with me and we worked on an old letterpress with a foot treadle. We did some printing on a letterpress printing on this press from 1885. And this isn't about any of that, but I wrote this while I was out there. And I think that's where I got the title from, called "Got My Bell Rung." I think I was making a play on like Bell, Missouri, So yeah, I think this is a good one to end on. Sure. Got my bell rung. In order for something to happen, like good Americans, we have to make something happen. Mom, Dad, I'm addicted to working, and I learned it from you, all right? Even the desiccated rest park of cancerous trees has a staff to wipe up where the poopies go. I divert to the scatological when it gets stressful here in the hinterlands, and brother, I am losing it. Every pocket picked in the patriotic crowded parade down Main Street, Tough Guy City, USA means the Bible is awesome. The Quran is awesome. The Bhagavad Gita is awesome. And Shakespeare can suck it. But the acting is so good. I don't think I can quit the life of Riley at this point. Murder squads mustering at borders, all the fingers and all the honeypots, nice quiet spots from which to observe the only empire left crumbling to dust. Bet it all on fear and loathing in Las Vegas or wherever. And just my luck, Hoover Dam is also awesome. I am a user who has lost his password when everything I own fits inside my little pouch is a line it takes a lot of cash and minimalism to write. No time for fart jokes now. No more distractions from the abysmal nightmare of our presence, baby. I aim to get at something real, like a stork pecking what looked like baby kisses, or a storm slapping a house around. Welcome to Frown Town, Mary, Joseph. Safest place in the world if you like intimidation. It's on sale at the local mercantile with the cute cashier who smiles at everybody. That's why she's cute. I do not have time for cute. I am chasing grand narratives into an early grave in exchange for a generation of housing built so humanoids can scratch their backs on dry-walled corners. Just now, this very moment, I see a cow doing it to a tree, and I think we're going to make it, and write that down. If I know nothing else, I know that is something that happened, and this is my job. Thank you. So I think that's going to do it for our open mic this evening. Thank you all very much for being here. Special thanks to Kyle Quass for live streaming for us tonight. That's right, you were all live on the internet tonight, and this will be on our YouTube channel here in a couple of days too. Thanks to the Backspace for having us. Be sure and join us again next month, Wednesday, I believe, Wednesday, October 4th, our Halloweeny edition, which will feature James Dorr, poet and magician Tom Hastings, and music by Drekka. I'm super thrilled about that show. That's going to be a really good one. Thank you all for coming. Be sure and have some more snacks. You can probably, there's a bunch, so you can probably take some with you too, because we paid for the catering. So avail yourselves of snacks. Thank you all very much. Have a good night.